Ladies and gentlemen, I've made several videos about some of the more impressive winning streaks in chess, but the one that I'm going to show you today is going to absolutely blow you out of the water. The player that will be featured is Nihal Sarin, who, amongst the talented Indian super grandmasters, is sometimes a little bit overshadowed. There is, of course, Gukesh, the world champion. There's Prague. There's Eric Geisy. There are all these young guys that are 2770 in classical chess. Nihal's rise has been a little bit slower in classical chess. He has recently broken 2700, but he is a top 5 player in the world in speed chess, bullet, blitz, and in rapid, he's also a monster. And he defeated Alireza Firouzja 15 times in a row, en route to winning the Bullet Chess Championship on chess.com. 15 wins in a row against somebody rated 3,360. This is a generational winning streak. I don't think Magnus Carlsen has ever beaten either of these guys or a Hikaru or anybody else in the top 10 in Bullet in the world 15 times in a row. Just sit back and relax. And I mean, these games are mind-bending games. This is chess. They have a minute to play the whole game. Let's just enjoy, all right? Alireza is obviously a top 2, top 3 bullet player in the world. I would like to think it's still Magnus number 1. Hikaru didn't play, even though he plays a lot of bullet. I mean, it would have been great to see him play, but I think age does play a factor. In this very first game, we have the opening's not going to really matter, right? It's bullet. The guys are just sort of firing off different moves. Nihal recently has incorporated more e4. He's always been a d4 player. He's a very practical player, makes simple and smart decisions. In this game, the opening transformation happens as follows, and Nihal just goes h4, playing actually it looks like aggressive chess, but it is positional, because if black plays h5, he loses control of g5, so he allows this, and from the opening, white just has a better position. Alireza does a horsey dance around the board. By the way, they've made 15 moves. They haven't even gone below 50 seconds. I mean, these are 2 of the highest rated bullet players on the platform. Alireza Firouzja, from the opening, trades the queens and has absolutely no problems. He has comfortably equalized the game. Nihal is making a little bit of improving moves, and then the big moment happens right here, when after knight d7, seeing knight b6, Nihal kind of plays a quick move and totally blunders bishop to h4. So Nihal has blundered a skewer. He would never blunder this in a real game. And now we have this position. How can you possibly outplay a 33-59 down material like this? Well, it's going to have to do with creating targets against his pawns, and it's going to have to do with the queenside pawn majority. White has 3-2 on that side of the board, and frequently against the rook in particular, when you have a piece like a bishop that can be supported with pawns, the rook's impact is not felt. A rook is an endgame piece. Watch as Nihal Sarin builds up a blockade on the left side of the board and completely neutralizes Alireza. c4, a4, and you just have this worrisome feeling that these pawns are going to go down the board, and keep an eye on that because it's going to keep happening. Nihal is so good at playing simple, practical chess, and before you know it, he has stopped Firouzja's pawn, and his pawns are moving. And watch as he plays king over and then gives away his center pawn to clear out the full path. And this man, down a rook for a bishop, wins the race. He's up a queen. He has 9 seconds to convert this position. He will. He's going to convert it pretty effortlessly, right? King g7, you just go rook to g6 and queen to g8. Good practice for how to convert winning positions as fast as possible. That's 1. We have 14 more games to go. I have never seen anything like this. The next game with the black pieces, it's a Petrov defense. Nobody starts out with one game thinking they're going to win 14 in a row. So obviously, the game is going to be a little bit chill, very symmetrical, pretty boring opening, knight to e5. Alireza just developing some pieces, right? Bishop d6. Nihal goes for a little bit of queenside expansion, makes a couple trades, but overall, white is just better, right? White's got more activity, better development. Black hasn't moved the light squared bishop yet. And now Nihal goes for some tricks, right? He wants to give away a pawn, but he wants to open up something over here. Alireza happy to oblige, plays a nice tactical move, but Nihal, so the point is that if you take, you get taken here, and your queen's hanging, but queen d7, and there's nothing, so you basically have to trade all the pieces. And now Nihal has this position to work with and a 7-second time advantage. And remember how in the last game, Nihal won with the outside pawn majority? Well, this is a dead draw, but in Bullet, it's anything but a dead draw. Because all of a sudden, you're getting in with your king. The other guy has to make a decision to play really passive defense, which is uncomfortable. You really don't want to play a move like bishop a3, because then you can't move anything. And black's bishop is going to be annoying you for the remainder of the game. Bishop a3 might be a practically losing move, actually, and it is. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? Like, you go to defend your pawn, and after one move, white is just stuck. So white's not going to be able to do anything for the rest of the endgame. You'll play b5, a5, b4, like, you're just completely winning. So what ultimately happens is Alireza makes a mistake right here and gets walled out, and it's, again, the outside pawns for Nihal. Just simple, practical decision-making, and ultimately, he's going to play bishop d5. He's going to shut down this diagonal. Maybe white will give away the pawn. It doesn't really matter. b4, a5, and just total domination on these light squares, and one bishop cannot stop two pawns that are just holding hands and walking forward. You're just going to lose. So bishop can come back, and then something like this. I mean, it looks like you have something. You don't have anything. b3, b2. It's over. It's absolutely over. Two. That's two. Now, next game. Not every game was an endgame grind. This game and the next game were very dynamic. This one starts out with a typical Nihal d4 queen's pawn game. This is 2 wins. He takes the center, develops his pieces, and in this game, Alireza kind of took command of the dynamics early, and he grabbed the bishop pair. So now black is better because black just, you know, traded a knight for a bishop. This transformation of knight to h5 and grabbing this bishop, this is good for black. Black leaves himself with the dark squared bishop. a5, looking for immediate central counterplay against d4, and then when a4 happens, you plant your knight here. Alireza doing fantastic things. I mean, this is typical type of Alireza game, but it's also a typical kind of Nihal game because he plays knight c4, and knight b6 is there, and Alireza was playing a little too quickly and just gives away the pawn. And the speed with which Nihal just completely converts this. No hesitations at all. They trade and he wins this pawn. Alireza probably went for this deliberately. But knight takes a5. That pawn falls. There's an amazing move here. You should counterpunch with bishop takes. I think Alireza saw that this was targeted and ended up going bishop d5, which is a mistake. I mean, you have to make a move in 2 seconds. Nihal trades like this, plays knight c6, and for a third game in a row, this is going to get decided with the outside pawns, isn't it? I mean, you're noticing a theme here. No. This game shows that if Nihal has to get into a fight with you, he will, because he ends up stabilizing the position, and there is no endgame here. The opposite colored bishops of a position benefit the attacking player, and if that bishop ends up on this diagonal, it's game over. If the rook gets to d7, it's game over. This king is way safer than this one because of all the pawn advancements that you made early on. And Nihal, within a span of like 5 moves, just absolutely loads up the cannons. And the game is over. You don't even need to make another move here because white, after queen a1, king to h2, is threatening not just like bishop d5, rook f7. Queen g6 is a threat. The pawns are so far advanced that this is a weakness since you're pinned. So the only way to survive here is to run your king, but since you run your king, you take away that square from the rook. Bishop d5, and before Nihal even lands anything, right, this is defended, but before he even lands anything, Alireza just resigns. He doesn't have a way to defend rook takes f7. If there was ever a shining example, better than this one, of opposite colored bishops benefit the attacking player, this is it. This bishop is literally standing around and completely colorblind to half of the squares. And meanwhile, there is a brutal infiltration happening on all 3 light squares. That goes to show you, right? So if Nihal has to win a position with an attack, he will. 3 games in a row is nothing. People tilt and bullet all the time. 3 games in a row is nothing. How is he going to continue to do this? How does he win 12 more games? I don't think you guys understand. To win 15 games in a row at this level theoretically means that Nihal performed at over 4,000 elo. It doesn't quite make sense because unlimited winning streaks aren't exactly calculated that way, and there will be some mathematicians and you know, very by the book individuals that listen to me say that, and then they're like, that's not possible. That's only 3. We have 12 more games to go. Alireza at this point is probably like, what's going on? All right, like I gotta win a game. Let me just play a Queen's Gambit decline. We're gonna keep this very chill. And in this game, Alireza does what Alireza always does. We're gonna see a type of game here from Nihal we haven't seen yet. Magnus-esque in his defense, okay? Knight to d7 played, f4, and he plays f6. When you see something like f6, something should scream out at you. And it's not that your knight is hanging. It's that there is a direct attack over here, and this bishop is asleep. f6, white should play queen h5. That's what white should play. And the idea is, of course, that the king is simply stuck. There is nothing defending the position anymore. Alireza flips it. Instead of playing queen h5, he sacrifices the bishop immediately. This is still okay, but it's only good for equality. It's not good for an advantage, because after this move, Nihal grabs he actually doesn't grab the pawn with check. He plays queen e4. He prefers to keep the position closed. He thought that if he took this pawn and king h1 was played, rook e1 would be a little bit too powerful. Queen e4 is an amazing practical move. Most people here would just simply take this pawn with check, because you think, not even that you're winning a pawn back, you're like, I'm gaining time, and then I have time to defend myself. Alireza plays f5, and now, and only now, that this knight has been anchored in, does Nihal take. Why? Because this diagonal is open. Nihal played the move queen e4 to defend against this attack. Do you know how much time he spent on queen e4 versus queen e3, the decision? Nihal played queen e4 in 0.4 seconds. He didn't pre-move it. A pre-move takes 0.1. In 0.3 seconds faster, slower than that, he correctly decided that this was safe, and after f5, in 1 second he took, because now he has a path over here, and the attack is thwarted. Now, in this position, there is only one path for an advantage for black. Only one. Only one path. Nihal finds it. I know it says minus 1.8. All of us are thinking, black is better. But the threat is vicious. The threat is queen e6. The threat is also rook f3, rook h3. Absolutely no way to stop that. There is no way to stop that attack by white. Not to mention that this rook is going to come down, and soon there are going to be 22 points of material attacking you while all of your pieces are dormant. Nihal goes here. That is the best move. Rook f3 comes. That is the best move. Now the best move again. Bishop d7. What is he planning? Rook h3. Where is he going to move? And this entire time, he had prepared the move rook e8, which he plays in 0.7 seconds. And now rook h6 is met with rook e2, but it's even deeper than that. The point is that if the queen had moved, there was rook h8, king f7, queen e7 mate. So what is the difference between rook e8 and this rook to e8? If this rook went to e8, after rook h6, rook e2, there would be check here, and you would lose this rook. By moving this rook here, look how well the position holds together. Rook h6, rook e2, rook here, and it looks like you lose a rook, but it's protected. Everything in Nihal's position holds together like super glue. Super glue. And now this one move wins back control of the file. And folks, that is the end of the game. He has to give away the rook for this, but he has full defense of the position. And now it is even more brutal because rook g3 looks like you've got the attack nailed. And the only way to defend this is rook h8, rook h3, queen h6, and you just repeat. And the second rook arrives. I regret to inform you, a second rook has shrugged the e8 square. And that's it. The attack is gone. You're just going to trade here. And what's going to ultimately happen is you're going to have a bishop and a knight versus a rook. G4, G6, you're simply trading. The bishop gets to that powerful square. Nihal has 18 seconds to win this position. Bishop and a knight versus a rook. How is he going to do it? 16 seconds apiece. How on earth are you going to win this position? H3, you have to react to every single move that your opponent is playing. The guys are playing at an unbelievable pace here. Look at this. Down to 11 seconds as Alireza, here comes the pawn. Pawn can't push forward. Alireza goes back to G3, D3, King D4. The best way to play bullet is to maintain an orb around your king so that you cannot be checked, and you have to anticipate every trick in the book. 1.4 seconds at this moment in the game is like an eternity. Rook H3, you simply block with the bishop. You can basically pre-move that. Now D2 is coming, so he has to go back there. And now all you do is you bring your knight. You just have to bring your knight to deflect away the king and probably block the rook. He plays knight F4, rook there gets on the other side. Knight G2 check, the king goes here, you repeat the position, and then suddenly you realize, wait a minute, I could have won bishop E2. Now you realize you can play bishop E2, and you win the game. You mummify the king. Knight G2 is an unstoppable checkmate, because if rook takes, you take with the pawn. And you stalemate the king, but this is coming, there are legal moves, and both of these moves are a checkmate. What an absolutely clinical and brutal finish. And I will remind you that with 6.8 seconds remaining here, Nihal landed in this endgame with 19. He won from this position to the end in 13 seconds time. Folks, we're not even a third of the way through. I'm gonna have to speed this up. I can't make a 40-minute video about bullet games. This man just breached 3,400. All right, here's another game. We go back to the typical opening: D4, Knight of 3, Bishop G5. All right, that game was absolutely clinical. But 11 more? How can you possibly win 11 games? Nihal doing typical things. Queenside play. All right, Bishop C7. We're gonna get some trades happening here. We have Knight for okay, very chill. King F1. I don't know what we're doing. I think we're kind of playing with house money at this point. We're just sort of shuffling around, but he's going to manage to win every single scramble. He's going to win every 50-50 ball, as they say in sports, and then he's going to win every single scramble. Look at this transformation. Takes, Knight F3, and here C4 is played, and simply, Alireza just wants to play B5 and control the queenside. One teensy little pawn move, played in 0.4 seconds from Nihal. Boop. Black is worse. You just can't move your pawns forward now. And after this, I'm going to hammer away at your pawn here. You're going to have to trade with me. The bishop is going to get blocked in by this pawn, and these pawns are going to be just standing there. And in a perfect world, Nihal is going to win the queenside and simply be up a pawn in an endgame. Now, he has an advantage. Alireza manages to stabilize for a little bit longer. Knight to F4. Knight to H3, he's looking for a way through. He actually ends up not getting the way through. Alireza defends himself very nicely here with the queen holding everything together, but ultimately, he just burns too much time. You can't be down 4 seconds. By the way, the queen side has fallen, right? It didn't fall right away, but inevitably it ends up falling, and Nihal is just too fast. 8 seconds, 3 seconds. He's going to win this game on the board. He's going to win this game on time, and that makes 1/3 of the video complete. He has won 5 in a row, and there are 10 more games. This next one, he has the black pieces, all right? We have another Queen's Gambit, H6, so he doesn't allow Bishop G5, right? That in the last game, we had Bishop G5, simple game, Bishop F5, brings the bishop back. Okay, let's see when the game is going to blow up, and there's Alireza, right? Alireza is arriving on the queen side, posing questions to Nihal. Nihal plays C5. He doesn't want the queen side to open. He wants the center to open. He wants the C file to open for his knights, his bishop, and his rook. A4, just taking a little bit of space. At some point, these guys are going to have an inevitable clash. There's the clash. He gives away the center pawn, but he ends up taking here, and this destabilizes a lot of things. This destabilizes the center, which in turn destabilizes the center even further. That's a major weakness. The dark-squared bishop is now a monster, all right? He plays pawn takes d4, and in the ensuing complications, Nihal is just down a pawn. I mean, he really is just down a pawn. It's a little hard to make progress here with white because this is your extra pawn. I mean, you're going to basically have to just, you know, be brave and push it forward, whereas black has a very easy game. Okay, this is Alireza's most promising game so far. Obviously, he can't lose 6 games in a row, right? That's not going to happen. Well, we know that is going to happen. Let's just see how it's going to happen. Nihal is sitting, waiting. Alireza's doing a very good job making progress, and Nihal is down 10 seconds. Down a pawn, down 10 seconds. There is absolutely no chance he can win this position. He just pinned the knight to the queen, and he's pinning the pawn to the king, which means queen h4 is a threat, and this is where you hit the panic button. Out of nowhere, 37 moves in this game, Nihal is back in business. Defending uncomfortable positions is such a big part of chess, and generally what's going to happen here is you're going to panic with white, and you're going to lose. Queen e1, he panics, now black is better, the queen goes back, now white is no longer up a pawn, and white is panicking, knight back to f2, queen to f5. Somehow Nihal is outplaying Firouzja. 10 seconds to 16 seconds is an insane time gap in bullet. Rook e3, f6, he stabilizes, he plays bishop. Oh my goodness. Alireza plays knight to d3, applying pressure to the pinned piece, and gets countered with more pins. And that's the end of the game. Now he has nearly double the time of Nihal, who is going to have to win this endgame 8 seconds to 11. And he will. He's going to straight up, look how smart he is. He gives away the rook for the knight because a king endgame with pawns only is easier to play with 3 seconds on the 3-second time differential. He manages in this position to pre-move out the entire game because Alireza is never going to go here. He's always pre-moving this. Look at this, 4.5 seconds. How on earth is he going to make this comeback? Alireza here resigns. I don't know if he should have resigned here, to be completely honest with you. He probably could have beaten him on time, but king a8, queen b6 is stalemate. That wouldn't have been blundered. But there is a chance. There is a very small chance. He ends up resigning. Good sport. We have to go to the next game. Nihal in this game, all right? I don't know. I've lost track. That's 5. That's we have, yeah, that's 6 games. Okay. We have a Sveshnikov Sicilian, one of the most classical openings. Both guys can play a bunch of opening moves here pretty easily. Black is going to try to go for kingside counterplay. White is going to try to play for positional stuff on the d5 square. Easy game to play in bullet, to be honest with you. Uh-oh. I see the early makings of a long-term pawn majority grind for Nihal Sarin. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There's the attack. We were promised, and now f4 position's going to get really complicated. Okay. Whoa. Whoa. Very, very dynamic game. So the attack is sort of stopped by the advanced pawns. These pawns are probably not going to move. It's going to be a battle of, like, who has the bigger weaknesses, right? d5. Wait a minute. d5 is just a blunder. Ali Reza tilts. Bishop takes d5. Bishop takes d5. Queen e5. Nihal, he a little bit fancy. Plays rook d5 instead. Same kind of concept. Nihal is just up a pawn. The position is opening up. And it's just over. It's just over here. There's too many long diagonal weaknesses. This is tilt. This is where you've officially entered the tilt mode, yet Nihal still winning the game in an endgame. Apparently, bishop takes g2 here would have saved Ali Reza, because after bishop g2, king g2, f3 wins for black. Now, if he spotted that, there would have been no 15-game winning streak. Also, Nihal probably wouldn't have taken. He would have went here, f3, king e3, f2, bishop c4, and probably, the game would have went on. But you're so tilted here, you blunder back rank checkmate. Because if king g7, there's rook g8 mate. That's another one in the books. There are still 8 more games to show you. We are halfway through. Nihal plays h6, the typical QGD. One of these games was so unbelievable. So this game, very solid again. And Ali Reza's like, all right, bro. This is full tilt activated. I'm just giving away material. I'm gonna go for an attack. Knight takes. He takes with the f-pawn. The knight comes back, and Nihal's basically like, come get some. Come checkmate me. Here's the thing. Knight on f8, never mate. That is the saying. You put a knight on f8 next to the king, there's never gonna be a checkmate on h7, and white just doesn't have the firepower here. Ultimately, you can sacrifice material to attack somebody in chess if you have 2 more attacking pieces than they have defenders. I call that the rule of +2. You don't have that here. This knight is like 3 moves away. The rook is at least 3 moves away because you're going to have to move the queen. Ali Reza knows all this. But Ali Reza has played 15 moves in 3 seconds. Ali Reza is tilted to another dimension at this point, which is something that, we got to think about. Knight goes back to f8, and Nihal just has to carve up the center. He grabs a pawn. He completely blunders here. Rook to b1 is just winning. Like, both guys are, like, clearly Nihal sees that Firouzja's tilted. He takes this pawn. Rook b1, rook b7 would have literally ended the game. And you need to get lucky to win 15 games in a row. In the previous game, he got a little lucky. This is the most lucky he gets because Ali Reza just plays a move instantly. And there is no rook b1 anymore. I don't think Ali Reza even realized he had blundered anything. Ali Reza clearly had a plan in mind to get his queen, his pawns, and everything. But whenever you're being attacked, you can strike back in the center and, you go in, but you're going in against the fully fortified Nihal Sarin, who's going to trade queens with you, take your final pawn, defend his position, knight c5. You're going to trade rooks. You're going to trade pieces. You're probably going to trade queens at some point. There is absolutely nothing here. And he trades his queen. He plays d3, promotes, and this is just the end. Ali Reza played 41 moves in 21 seconds. This is full tilt. I mean, once you have lost that many games in a row and nothing's going right, he played 41 moves in 21 seconds. But they weren't high-quality moves. He needed to think a little bit on some of these. That's another win in the books, and we still have 7 more games. I mean, that's mind-blowing. 24-minute video. He's won 8 games in a row. We have 7 more. 7 more games before Firouzja. And remember, at some point, what he did is he made a grand final reset. So you have to realize that this is an esports format, right? So that means they play a grand final and then a grand final reset. Ali Reza was the champion of the winner's bracket. The loser's bracket, Nihal lost to him in the semis, went through the loser's bracket. He had to beat Ali Reza to make a grand final reset. And then, he had to beat him again. So, okay, knight f3, g3. All right. This is a very well-known opening. You just prevent c4. And there's a line here for white where you play a4, a5 to target this knight, and you play knight h4 to target this bishop. I have actually faced this myself with black, and I have played this with white. So there it is. You can grab the bishop pair. And something really funny happens here. So castles is the move, right? C6. And Ali Reza is so tilted at this point, he pre-moves knight to f6. He just pre-moves it, which is crazy. I mean, you should never pre-move that here, right? But he's so tilted. Nihal, after knight takes g6, pre-moves e4 because he's expecting pawn takes g6. So knight f6 is played. Clearly, you can take the rook, but Nihal pre-moved the move e4 because he, and now Ali Reza is sitting there like, oh my god. So h takes g6, and Nihal plays rook e1. So white has a slightly better position. He has two bishops, right? And, he's looking at e5, etc. And here we go. Bishop b4. How do you play with the bishop pair? He loses a pawn on a5, but what's ultimately going to happen is everything is going to open in the middle of the board. So if bishop takes d2 here, knight takes check, followed by queen takes. If you take this, I'm taking the bishop attacking your queen, so black has to go. The move you had to play here was bishop takes d2. Instead, you have this, and now I don't have to move the bishop. Nihal spots this. He's not just a positional player. Yeah, pawn takes d5, and Ali Reza clearly, at this point, castles, there is a rook hanging, there is a knight hanging, but the best move is to fork the queen and the rook, and black will now lose two rooks and lose the game. Oh, maybe not, but he's going to be down a rook for a knight, and this is game over, as he will lose all the pieces, and Nihal is not going to struggle to convert this position. He converts it literally like a robot. I mean, if you really think about how clean this was, he won both pawns, he traded the rook, and then he just invested in his most advanced pawn, pushed it as far as possible. His king is completely safe. There is no way to get to this king, and that's it. And that's 9. And then Nihal in this game, right? Ali Reza at some points like, all right, I mean, I can't lose every game. He's just losing in 9 moves here. Nihal grabs a pawn from him. Ali Reza's pre-moving basically every move. He is, if you lose this many games in a row, you're not really playing logically. Nihal at this point up 2 pawns in an endgame. He's going to bring his king probably over there. He can push this pawn to break apart the structure if he needs. He's going to not let the white king come close. Ali Reza's playing really fast, but the problem with playing really fast when you're playing Nihal is, he's just 2 pawns up. So the way that you're going to win this endgame is you can play king b5, you can play like this, take king a4, the king will come here, you'll take. You will just slowly encroach on the position, and you're just going to win. He wins another game. We got 5 more games to go. So at some point, we restart the match, right? We are playing now the grand final reset. Nihal in this game has the black pieces, second time, here we go, tilt is worn off, we got a new match. We have an Italian, so Ali Reza's like, all right, that was terrible. That was one of the worst losing streaks I ever went on. It happens, it's statistics. Sometimes it can happen. Now we're going to just reset here. We're going to regain our composure. We have an advantage from the opening. Let's go. Typical, Nihal's playing b6, bishop b7. Ali Reza back in business. Great position from the beginning of the game. He's just winning a pawn. Okay, Ali Reza took an emotional timeout, and now he's winning. Tremendous. Rook d8. Nihal now, knight f5, rook g3 is typical Ali Reza. Okay, rook e1 is also fine. Now there is no knight f5, so he plays knight back to f3. And he just loses a pawn. And this is so unlike Firouzja. This is not a Firouzja that is just starting a match. This is a 10 losses in a row. Firouzja, knight f5 here, followed by, rook e1 and maybe looking for sacrifices. But to come back to go for trades, and now you just lose this pawn, and your tilt restarts. It restarts because you're like, what am I doing? You play queen f4, Nihal is right there. He doesn't allow you to get any counterplay. He's kind of threatening you with a draw. Queen c1 back. He doesn't go for the repetition. Okay. a5, and now Nihal gets to his endgame. King f8, very solid. Rook is going to infiltrate to the second rank. And no way he's going to win again, right? Because if he wins this pawn's just going to promote. He plays bishop e6. He gives himself the outside pass pawn, which he's going to quickly try to take away. h5, looking for some play on that side of the board. Allows h4, but still the position's equal. Nihal's only got 18 seconds. There is no chance he is going to win this position. He is down 5 seconds on the clock. check, rook d2, knight d5. Oh my goodness. No, no, no. He just won the pawn. He's defending his own pawn, and he's going to go knight f4, and this pawn is going to prevent the king from escaping. Absolutely not. He's not going to win this game, is he? Surely he's not going to win this game. Oh my goodness. Rook to a2. He's going to pick up another pawn here. 9 seconds to go. He runs away from the perpetual check, and now he plays knight takes it, and has somehow every pawn that he's taking is protecting another pawn. Rook f2. Nihal has won all of Firouzja's pawns. How does he do this? King to d8. There is a chance here you can maybe clutch a draw, but he's going to consistently find a way. He keeps finding a way. Rook f5, it's a draw, but he is going to flag Alireza Firouzja. Knight f6, knight d7, and Firouzja loses on time. He has not been flagged yet in one of these scrambles. In almost every one of them, Nihal has found a way to win. 4 more games to go. He is rated 3,445. He is the biggest bubble in that game. What was that? Agar IO or something? Like, what was that game from like 4 years ago everybody was playing when you're the huge blob? Anyway, h6. I mean, this is freaking tilt right here. You don't allow him to play bishop to g5, e6. He goes for a London anyway. It doesn't matter. I mean, Nihal, he loves these simple positions. Alireza is ballistic at this point. He is not castling. He's just looking for play down the side of the board. There he goes. Nihal uses his momentum against him, picks up the pawn, and now... I mean, this is exactly, this is almost like the equivalent of chess martial arts. I mean, you're just simply winning a pawn here, you're not allowing him to attack you, and you win a second pawn, his king is stranded in the middle of the board, you use all of the opponent's forward momentum against him, knight to a5, what a move, you're gonna grab the bishop, the king should not be that far advanced, and the hammering c4! Using the spin against the knight and the king, he has to take, but when he takes, queen a4 is absolutely vicious. King to b6, and knight to b4, this is mate. And if you take, this is mate. You cannot stop checkmate. Queen e8 would maybe prevent it. It wouldn't, because this is mate, because this is stopping the getaway. Folks, Alireza in this game decided he had had enough. He was going to stand up for himself. He was not going to lose 12 games in a row, sacrificed a pawn in front of Nihal's king like this. And the speed, efficiency, and viciousness that Nihal countered this is something to behold. He won a pawn, he gets the bishop immediately, and just like an absolute Terminator, just brutalizes the king, and that is 12 games in a row, and we have 3 more games to go. Firouzja, Nihal, d4. All right, we've seen this opening a bajillion times. At some point, something has got to give, right? Alireza, yet again, plays a great opening, has a better position from the beginning of the game, and now goes for an attack. And Nihal just immediately counters. Immediately counters. The queen is hanging, but this queen is hanging. With white at this point, you just feel like you're drowning. Like, you cannot do anything to this guy. Queen g5, he is just so methodical. Bishop b2, you're getting a little bit of counterplay. All right, he gets knight here, but you're just like, why am I not winning? I am constantly getting good positions against him, and yet he's defending everything. He's defending everything. He has the bishops, the rook, everything is under protection. Takes, rook f d8. And he's winning again. He's down 17 seconds to 30, and you blunder an opportunity again. Nihal finds a way again. This is a nice, tricky move, by the way, but you just take and rook f2, and he has 16 seconds. How is he going to win this position again? And he just will. The king is safe, right? The king is completely safe. Knight f3, knight d4. He's going to dance around with his knight. King e6. He's going to go for it. 9 seconds to 11 here. No, but surely not, right? I mean, Nihal is down a pawn, and Alireza's pawn is 3 squares away from queening, and Nihal is down on time. Nope. Alireza hangs his rook. I mean, you just cannot, like, you cannot possibly predict this stuff. And Nihal pre-moves nearly the remainder of this game. Rook there, he takes, he is winning. It's not even that he's flagging him. This is literally a winning endgame. And Alireza resigns, which, again, I'm not sure he had to do, but to be honest here, it's losing, because what will happen here is black will have 2.5 seconds, and white will have 3.5 seconds, but it's a lot harder to pre-move with white. Still, he could have maybe flagged him, but if Nihal played like this, for example, You know, at some point with white, you're going to pre-move incorrectly. Like, as long as black continues to pre-move distance and cutting you off randomly, you will pre-move to an illegal square. It's really hard to pre-move against the queen. It would be a miracle to survive this. That is 13 games in a row, and now we conclude with the final 2 of this streak. Again, Nihal playing the typical thing that he does, which is the Torre attack. All right, very tricky, and now here comes the pawn play. It's going to expand on the queen side, CD, rook c1, knight f1, little bit of piece shuffling, knight b4, he's looking for something. He's just down a pawn. I mean, there is nothing. There is no advantage to be had here. Alireza has outplayed him in the opening here, and just loses the pawn back. There was no need to play like this, knight d6, but he's feeling impatient. He wants to get something done. He thought knight takes b4, but rook b4, he leaves his knight hanging. And what Alireza blundered was rook a2, rook b6. You think you take the bishop, you get 2 pieces, but there is rook f6. The knight is actually not protected. And so now Alireza's retilted in this game, and just playing Nihal is just brutal, because even though you can be winning, guys, this is probably the most heinous one. 12 seconds to 25, and completely lost. Rook for bishop. King g3, knight f5, king g7. I mean, surely there is no chance here. There is no way. No freaking way. You're not going to make a comeback here. You are lost. It's over. Right? Nihal finds a way, under massive pressure on his own position, to weave a checkmate net around the king. Knight e6, and anywhere the king moves, rook b8 and knight f6. This is truly unbelievable. And the craziest thing is, he's going to get one more. That was 14 games. At a certain point, you are winning games by the skin of your teeth. This game, like, at a certain point with white, you're like, I can't do anything. I just have to make a draw. Here is an example of trying to make a draw. You're just playing. You're just shuffling. You're like, all right, I mean, I can't do anything to this guy, so let's make a draw. And then you just hang a pawn, and your whole strategy is gone. And Nihal opens up your king again, and at some point trades the queen. And this is, you know, you have a little bit of counterplay here with d5, which Alireza doesn't spot because you're tilted beyond belief at this point. He's gonna bring the king. He brings the king and the pawn, and the game's it's just over. Pawn takes, king takes. The rook has to stay on this file. King c4, king c3, king d2. Yeah, b1. You just lose. 15 games in a row. His rating got to 34.58. Now, the match ended up a little bit more back and forth. They had some battles after this, but this might be, I mean, we talk about winning streaks in chess. There have been the candidates winning streaks of Fischer. There have been the Fabiano Sinkfield Cup 7-0. To win 15 games against one of the strongest speed players in the world, like literally number 2. Alireza is probably the second best speed player in the world. Speed Chess Championship proves it. Nihal is probably top 5. Nihal said after this tournament, he is definitely not the best bullet player in the world, which is fascinating. But Nihal beats Alireza in 2 matches to 1, loses to him in the semifinals, beats him in the grand final reset, or in the grand final, and then he beats him in the grand final reset. And again, the point of this video was not to bury Alireza. It's just honestly like 15 wins in a row is unbelievable. It's crazy. It's just completely crazy. He won it with endgame performances. He won it with comebacks. He won it with trickery. He won it with theatricality and deception, to quote The Dark Knight. Yeah, Nihal's nuts. Just completely nuts. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Enjoy. Get out of here.